Hello everyone, it's Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I hope everyone is doing okay. I know it's still a decent time back there, but it's still in the morning here. So, and good. I'm going to try to be calm. I don't know who's downstairs, so I don't want to wake them. I gotta be honest, I don't know how people deal with this. Like there's I'll give you an example. Trayvon Martin, and at this point people know the story. He's walking home with Skittles and iced tea or something, and a predator with a gun is stalking him and is calling the cops, and the cops are saying, "Go home. Go the fuck home. You're a maniac and you're a loose cannon and you're literally stalking the streets and stalking some guy who hasn't done anything to you, has just as much right to exist and operate in the confines of the boundaries of the law as you do. Go the fuck home." With that information from the cops, this prescient, actually damn good advice from the cops, he proceeds to follow, gets into an altercation, meaning he's stalking him. He gets into an altercation with him. And at some point in losing the altercation, because he's that much of a pussy, he pulls out a gun and murders a child. Murders a child. That by itself, I don't know how you as a mom or dad deal with something like that. Your kid goes out for iced tea and doesn't come home. How do you process that? I don't know how you process that as a person. Now, then doubly so when he gets off. When he gets off. Even worse. Your society saying, yeah, your kid doesn't matter. Your kid doesn't matter. Your kid is of a particular demographic. He doesn't matter. Sorry. And then give this show trial, this absurd show trial, where the person who's given the case is acting as if they're the defense. I don't know how you process that. I honestly don't. Not as a person, not as a human being, where your kid has just been murdered. I wouldn't know how to process that if my dog has been murdered. So I'm trying to put that in context. I love my dog. If my dog was shot, I'd feel some kind of way and I'd want something done to the person that did it. I could imagine if it was your kid. This gentleman here, on Sunday evening, Dallas, I'm just reading this, Rolling Stones. On Sunday evening, Dallas Police Department Officer Amber Geiger, 30 years old, was arrested and charged on manslaughter for fatally shooting Botham Shem John, in his own apartment on September 6th. While Geiger was in uniform, he used a service weapon to shoot Jean in the chest and abdomen at approximately 10 p.m. on September 6th. She was off duty. Geiger lives in the same apartment complex as Jean, but one floor below, and she claims she mistakenly thought Jean's apartment was her own and thought he was an intruder. I mean, how do you process that? I don't know how you process that. He had a mom, he had a dad, he had people that loved him, he had a kid. Are you telling me that we're not safe in our own goddamn homes? Is that what you're telling me? I mean, honestly, there's a case to be made that at the very least they locked her up. Thank you. I would imagine this case was so repugnant that a person literally... First of all, I don't even know how that happens. This case makes no sense to me. I think she's lying through her teeth. Fact is, her story boils down to, I was off duty, I get home, I park into the wrong parking garage, and after parking into the wrong parking garage, I walk to his door. For whatever reason, unlike most normal people, he has his door open and ajar, and I put my key in and the door pops open, and oh my God, there's a big black man in my apartment. And I scream at him and I give him certain things, and he doesn't listen to me. He doesn't listen to me. And so I shoot him. I shoot him. I think this story is nonsense. They let that woman go home, and craft a story as opposed to actually question her in the moment itself. Rolling Stones tried to contact the police department for comment, and for the most part, they gave Rolling Stones a standard comment of, this is all we know at the moment. We're not going to say anything until we give a full report. They've passed this off to the Texas PD and the Rangers because they didn't necessarily want any signs of bias in the case, any more than the bias of letting that woman go home and craft a story. Craft a story. There are contradicting reports. There are some reports that said there was knocking. I think this story is nonsense. Honestly, I think this story is nonsense. This story makes zero sense at all. Now, the reason why I say I think this story is nonsense, I don't know anybody who does this, and maybe this is my own bias. I have no idea anybody who goes to the wrong place unless they are wasted, drunk, drugged up, or methed up. I don't know any normal person that does it. That's the first point. The second point, I have no belief at all that his door was ajar. I don't believe that one iota. I'm sorry, I don't. I don't know anybody that leaves their door open. Full stop. Now, there are neighbors who say that they heard her knocking and banging on the door, which would indicate, or at the very least get across a point that maybe the door wasn't locked. Maybe the door was locked, and this story of, the door was unlocked. Because the problem is, if you're going to say that the door was unlocked, you at the very least give a plausible reason for why she had to murder him. I hope that makes sense. Meaning, for her to tell you what happens when she crafts the story had to be crafted in a way that explains why the door opened. When I first heard the story, I said, well, how did she get in? That was the first thing I thought. How did she get in? How did she get in order to murder him? After all, if she popped the lock in some way, how does she open the door? Like, you can bang on the door all you want. If I don't open it, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So here we have this story of the door was ajar. It was unlocked. He's the only person in America that keeps his door unlocked. And in keeping his door unlocked, oh, magically, I have a reason that I can say I plausibly murdered the black man that was in his room. Plausibly murdered the guy. I think that's where it's nonsense. I think that's where it's crafted. I'm just saying. Are they going to have a real investigation? Who knows? My wife doesn't believe that she's going to get prosecuted. I actually believe she will get prosecuted. The story is too stupid. Ultimately, you have a situation where a person literally goes into somebody else's house and murders them in their house. Now, it takes multiple days for them to lock this person up, but at the very least, they lock this person up and charge him with manslaughter. They charge him with manslaughter because murder is different. The standard for murder is different. The standard for murder would have required her to knowingly murder him, if that makes sense. And the only thing they can get her on at this point is she didn't necessarily intend to go there to murder somebody. She just murdered somebody, if that makes sense. With that knowledge that I just gave you, with that context, because everything I've just said is flat fact correct. Now put the article at the bottom so you can see it for yourself, like the multiple articles. Look at what one news station, look at what one news station plays as the story. Meaning, what I've just told you is the story. That's what's taking place. That's what we know so far. And a little bit more information has been leaked to the press. Listen what's been leaked. Let's see. Where are we? Right here.
How you doing?
Fucking commercials. All right. I don't want to see those commercials. I hate that shit. Oh, that's it. That's annoying. All right. So right here, this is where the news show decides it needs to focus its attention. Come on. That's
items listed in the document are
a search warrant is.
all right. Let's see.
describes more of the evidence collected at Botham Jean's apartment the day after he was shot and killed by an off-duty Dallas police officer. Hello, I'm Heather Hayes.
I'm Steve Eager. It's 9 o'clock. Among the items listed in the document are cartridge casings, a backpack with police equipment, and marijuana. The attorneys for Botham Jean's family are outraged that a document describing drug evidence became public on the same day as his funeral.
You know, whether it was the same day as his funeral or not is kind of irrelevant. What's being said here is irrelevant to the case and is used only to smear. What, half of the countries are either legalized marijuana? That would be, did he have alcohol? Did he have beer? Did he have any other chemical in his system that might, essentially they're saying, look, she's saying that she murdered him because, you know, she gave him verbal commands and he wouldn't follow the verbal commands in his own home. I mean, how dare that Negro not follow those verbal commands in his own home? And hey, maybe he wasn't following those verbal commands because he was potted up. Maybe he was just stoned off of his ass to such a degree that he couldn't follow commands and she had to murder him justly. That's gross. That's fucking gross. He's in his own home. Are you telling me that we're not safe in our own homes? And then to run a report like this as if giving these hints that maybe that Negro needed to be put down after all. I mean, who knows if he was just drugged up? Maybe that's why he was shot. Clean shoot. Clean shoot. Maybe my wife is right. Maybe she does get off. If they're putting shit out like this, maybe he does get off. Because otherwise, they're tainting the character of a person who was, for all intents and purposes, a decent human being by all standards. A decent human being. Anybody you talk to will tell you this guy was a decent human being. Did he not have a right to exist? And is society really going to look at another person of a particular persuasion of skin color in his own apartment? He's in his own apartment. Snuffed out. Clean shoot. At the very least, the woman has been prosecuted or being arraigned. But I got to be honest. So what? So what? I don't care if she's prosecuted. I want her put in an electric chair. I want her put under the. I'm not one of these libs who gets. I'm not a big purse fan for executions, but I'm not one of those people who are also a bleeding heart on this stuff. This woman went in and murdered a person in his own home. If I'm the mom, if I'm the dad, am I really looking at this and saying, oh, great, she's being prosecuted? Does that really assuage what's just been lost in this particular scenario? No, it doesn't. I promise you it doesn't. I promise you it doesn't. But hey, maybe that's why we don't have people making the determinations on what penalty is put out to the other person. Because I think you would have a lot of death penalties. The death penalty in Texas is murder one, yeah. It's not considered a murder, so fair enough. Fair enough. And all things being equal, I'm not a fan of the death penalty. But from the perspective of the parents involved, am I really going to be... Yeah. Just saying. Just saying. I'm curious on whether anything is done at this. She shot somebody apparently before that person lived. This one, not so much. This one, not so much. If they face the electric chair, we would see cop killings go way down. They would go to zero. Not zero. I'm joking. I'm joking. This is outrageous. This is outrageous. Yeah. You're not safe in your own house. Think about that shit. You're not safe in your own home. She was off duty, if that's anything to say about it. To some degree, I think that might even make it worse. And to some degree, that's probably what, to me, that why I think she might be first prosecuted. This is so gross. This is so over the top gross. If she was on duty, at the very least, they could try to justify the killing in some particular way. And I suspect that they're helping her craft a story. Or I'm not going to say that, because I don't know that. That's speculation. I think her story is nonsense. That is speculation, but I still think her story is logically nonsense. So, we'll see what happens. I'll be following this story. Thanks, guys.